Yes, everybody's still coming to Florida. It's still crazy, lots of people here. However, we're going to talk about what it's like to move to Florida and some of the unique challenges if you decide to move here as well. Hey everybody, my name's Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. And if you're looking for a channel to tell you a little bit about what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, then this is the channel for you. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. I'm getting calls every day from people asking what it's like to move, what they can expect, and how I can help them. So if you've got a question, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. Okay, so this is going to be my new look going forward because the stuff I'm going through right now causes me to wear the granny glasses and this big old brim hat. It's for one reason. This stuff. Yeah, that's from that treatment I told you I was starting. This is like a chemotherapy. Effudex, it's going to basically peel the skin off, get rid of any, hopefully, cancerous cells so that I can continue doing this for you. Anyway, one of the side effects is you can't see too well. You get blurred vision. So I'm going to do my best to get through this without having to use the glasses. But just wanted to give you an update on where we were. Use your sunscreen, especially in Florida. I wasn't that good at it. I'm going to be a whole lot better about it. But either that or you've got to have the big brim hat, long sleeves, whatever it is. Cover up, enjoy a little bit of the sun, but protect yourself from there on out. One of the other things that I was forced to do amid this whole change is I still like the bicycle ride. I still like the motorcycle ride. The sun's still out, so there's not a lot of choices on what you're going to do. So I had to take what I would normally wear maybe for skiing. We have a balaclava. Put this thing down over your neck, raise it up on your face, and flip it up over your head. And this is kind of what it looks like. Yeah, I didn't feel like the coolest guy cruising down the street, but I knew I was protected. I knew I had to keep the sun exposure off me. So this was the only way I could still get out and do the activities I like. Okay, now on to this week's video. We're talking about moving to Florida and some of the unique challenges when you do. When you move, you've heard the analogy of location, location, location. Yes, it still exists. That's absolutely a cornerstone of making decisions on real estate. In this particular case, in Florida, you may have heard you can drive down a street and you're going to see a mixture of homes, different ages, different styles, different colors, different levels of repair. So you can find neighborhoods that you drive into and you probably want to drive right back out of, and others that you drive into. And I had a client the other day comment, it was like driving down the road in Beverly Hills. I mean, the trees were just lining the road on both sides. Royal palms is absolutely gorgeous. There's only a few places like that around here, but there are neighborhoods that offer that if that's your speed. When you're looking for a property, you need to look for the amenities that are going to be around you, the things that are best suited for your lifestyle. And we're going to touch on some of the things that you're going to want to look out for, especially when looking for properties in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and really any Southwest Florida neighborhood. We're primarily going to talk about Cape Coral at this stage because it's about boaters. Now, there are boaters in many other communities around this area, but Cape Coral, again, has that 400 miles of canals, and it's probably the biggest concentration of boaters you're going to find on the coast. In this area, you have different ways that you're going to be able to put the boat into play. How do you want that to look? This is going to be part of how you decide on where you're going to live. If you want Gulf access and to put the boat on a lift in the back of the home, you're going to be looking for certain things. Number one, how often are you going out? This is very important because your commute to get out to open water, it's going to determine where you can live. There's some areas you'd be out in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, no bridges, you're out, you're cruising, you're off fishing, whatever it is. There's other places, it can be an hour or an hour plus to get out. How often do you think you're going to want to do that if you have to go for an hour? If you have a little pontoon boat and you just kind of want to cruise down the canal, may not be a big deal. But the serious boaters, the guys that are out multiple times a week, they don't want to wait an hour to get out. So this is where you need a direct access, no bridges kind of a setup. There is a premium for that. So keep in mind, if you want premium access, you're going to pay premium prices. If you're not going to put it on the lift in the back of the house, you have two other options. This is going to free up your property choices because now you're either going to take it on a trailer to the ramp or you're going to put it in a high and dry where you basically take it to a storage place. The forklift lifts the boat up and sticks it on a rack under protection. There is a monthly fee for that. It's generally $16 per foot plus 6.5% tax. So keep that expense in mind if that's the route that you're going to go. As far as trailering, it really comes down to how far do I want to travel to the boat ramp? Is it going to be a ramp that's feasible to get in and out of? Is it well used and it's not going to be slick? It's not going to cause me any problems. And you have to have a place still on your property or nearby to stow the boat. You can put it in your yard. You can push it all the way to the back of the property so that's out of the way. You're not going to catch any flack from the neighbors or the code enforcement. But that is another option. And again, it keeps your opportunities for homes wide open. You can be in many different areas based upon that. A key thing in Cape Coral that you're going to consider when you're picking a property, do you want well and septic or water and sewer? Because if you go up into the Northwest and a lot of the Northeast, you're going to end up on well and septic. If you haven't done it before, it's not a big deal. You don't have a water charge per se. You do have a holding tank and you have filtration systems, pressure tanks, all that kind of stuff that brings the water up and out into the home. You can put a reverse osmosis system on the home for the whole house. I've been told by a local builder, he has it on his house and the water he gets is better than what you get from the city. So it's not always a detriment to have that set up. If you're open to well and septic, you're going to open up your opportunities and for many more affordable properties as well. If you're looking for the water sewer areas, you're going to stick to the south parts of Cape Coral, which is southeast, southwest. In those areas, there could be an assessment still left over from when they converted, but many of these properties have already paid off their assessments for the conversion. They are getting water and sewer. Water bills they just average based upon what size your family is and the usage. Do you take hour-long showers? Do you have a pool? Are you doing a ton of laundry all week long? Then your bill's going to be a little higher. But if you do things on the lower stage, don't have a pool, don't use a lot of water, you're looking under $100 a month. So really not a big deal to have that convenience. Another way that people choose their properties is school zones. Obviously, if you've got kids, you want to know what the schools are like. Well, all of Cape Coral is under the West Zone. Now, the West Zone has 3 subzones. In those subzones, if you're in the W3, you can choose schools in W2 and W3. If you're in W1, you can choose W1 and W2. The only one that has access to all of Cape Coral is if you're in W2, you can go to either W3 or W1. So you're just extending your opportunities to be in different schools. It is school choice here. So you put a list of schools together for preferred areas in which you'd like the kids to go. And hopefully the one that you put on the top is the one they select for you. If not, it can be changed along the way, but you'll at least have to start off with whatever selection you can get placed in. Make your selections early on so that you have preferred consideration when it comes time to get the choice that you want. Don't delay until just before the school season because you'll end up certainly being in a place that you may not want to be. When I say that, it's not saying it because the school's bad, it may not be the most convenient location for you. This next one came up the other day. A client asked me about a property and they said, hey man, this looks great. What's the situation with this? What can you tell me? The first thing I did is I saw vacant land behind the property. The next thing I did was click on the property itself to find out what's the use of the property. And it was labeled commercial. Now, commercial can be any number of things. It can be a commercial warehouse building. It can be commercial for condo buildings or apartment complexes, for any of those kinds of things. But in some way or fashion, it's a commercial slab of land. And had these people not known that, they may purchase a property that ends up eventually backing up to something they don't want. So make sure your real estate agent is always checking what's it like around the property. If there's vacant land, what's the use of that property so that you don't end up in a situation you don't want to be in later. In this same thread, you have to think about the neighborhood itself and how is the neighborhood zoned. You can drive down a neighborhood and you can see a mixed use all up and down the streets. It's not that common, but it happens. I was driving down the street the other day and I started looking around, noticing single family homes next to duplexes, next to businesses, next to commercial buildings, all in the same neighborhood. So if you don't want to be in that situation, drive the neighborhoods first. Understand what you're getting into. Look at all of these things through my eyes. I give you this information so you can be better prepared, but please be on the lookout for this, because after you made that decision to purchase a house and it's closed, you can't change it unless you sell it again and go through that whole hassle once more. If you're that person that's looking for gated communities, oh, here's a whole nother ball of wax. You have to go into each of these communities if you can get access. Once you're in the community, you have to look around to see what it looks like. How is it maintained? The community on a whole is maintained by a corporate landscape company, so they're generally pretty good about that. Some communities will also have it in their association to maintain the individual lots of your neighbors and yourself. If they don't, it's up to each individual homeowner to maintain their land. What does it look like? Are they actually doing it? If you end up buying in something like that and the neighbor's not taking care of their lawn, the only way it can be enforced is to give them warnings and eventually put a lien on their property that would have to be paid before it gets sold. So if they weren't going anywhere and they let the fines pile up, their site is still not going to look any better because there's no need to have to maintain it. Therefore, look a little closer at what each of these HOAs asks you to do, who does the maintenance on the properties, and how it's going to affect you when you're living there. In these communities with HOAs, there's some of them who literally have HOA police. And I say that kind of jokingly, but I know of one. In fact, there is a person that drives around the neighborhood on a golf cart with a notepad, taking notes of what your property condition is, what needs improvement, and they're very eager to send you a notice to say you need to fix this. And if you don't fix it in this amount of time, then you're going to be fined. So if you're okay with that kind of a rule and you want that kind of order in your neighborhood, then maybe a gated community is for you. These gated communities also have started doing a lot more of the electronic call boxes. You put your license in and you hope somebody comes through on the other side. And then they're going to ask you a bunch of questions about what you're there for, who you're there to see, what's the address you're going to. And if they don't get anybody on the other end of the line, you're not getting let in. So they're relatively secure, but they're also bothersome at times, and there could be lines that come out the front. I've had to spend 15, 20 minutes at a gate waiting for others to get through before I got there myself. Yeah, it's inconvenient. It does give a little bit of a perception of security. Other times you'll see broken gates because somebody just wasn't patient any longer and decided just to push through. So that can happen too. However, another one of the challenges of being in a gated community. When choosing a neighborhood, also think about walkability. Now, Cape Coral doesn't have a lot of walkable neighborhoods. Much of it is drivable or Uber. Pick your poison. But you're not going to find a bus, and I guess you could bicycle. That could be another option for you, but it is very spread out. The only place that a bus runs is on the east side towards Del Prado. Otherwise, you are going to need a car, you are going to need a friend, or you are going to need a phone to call Uber. If you live in the downtown area, and the downtown for Cape Coral is rather small, but there are some condos and single-family homes right up off of 47th and 46th terraces, just across the canal. There's some single-family there. You can walk into the downtown. You can go to some restaurants, some bars, things like that, but that area is rather small unless you're looking for a longer walk. Another consideration is throughout Cape Coral, there are numerous places where you can bicycle on the road. And you'll see on the roads, there is a bicycle lane to the right-hand side. There is a 3-foot rule in Florida, so a car should stay 3 feet away from bicyclists. You are sharing that road, and we need to respect that space. I do bicycle myself, so I'm saying it kind of for my own well-being as well as others, but please be wary of what's going on in front of you, especially when you come around these biking areas, because there is limited spacing at times. There are also areas that have sidewalks and others that do not. So if you're looking for a neighborhood that you can walk around, pay attention to whether it has sidewalks or not and how you're going to be doing those walks if you have dogs or kids that you like to push around in a stroller. Also look for dog parks. There are dog parks around the area. So if your furry friend wants to go socialize, you can do that. Some communities offer it, as well as some local parks like the Rotary Park. Many of the areas around Cape Coral are different in how they're landscaped. You will notice if you go up into the northwest and northeast, the landscaping can look kind of sparse. The more you drive to the south, the thicker the landscaping becomes. Once you get down into the Rose Garden and you get down into Unit 64 and all those wonderful golf access neighborhoods, you're going to see huge royal palms, lots of vegetation. It's an absolute sight to behold. It's kind of like driving into a jungle in some cases, but it's beautiful. So if you're looking for those kind of neighborhoods, you're going to stay to the south of the Cape until more of the northern stuff starts to fill in. You may not know this, Cape Coral is only 50% built so far, and we're about 120 square miles that need to be filled in. So that leaves a lot of opportunity for the north still to be built. It's just going to take some time. So if you're somebody that wants it already done and wants to have that beautiful vegetation already complete in the neighborhood, stick to the southeast and the southwest. Now, I noticed something yesterday that was absolutely hilarious when I first saw it. I couldn't believe it until I saw it multiple times. It made no sense to me. Yes, Florida is hot, 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 and we're just getting to that time where it's starting to heat up. The humidity's not here yet, but the sun is really starting to get intense. Well, I noticed even the owls look for the shade. I know I park in the shade. I know people are carrying umbrellas for shade. I know that there's that big brim hat that people have. But check out these little guys, man. They are literally standing in the shadow of the signs that are put around their nests. They're standing in the shadow of the trees nearby. It's that hot that even the owls are seeking refuge. So again, keep in mind, sunscreen, hat, sleeves, protect yourself too. This time of year, we're also running into a drought. That's why everything is very brown. All this brown that is around us right now will eventually turn back to beautiful green. But we're about 3 inches behind in rain so far this year. Down in Naples, it's 5 inches below. So when we get these really dry days and it starts to get windy, we also have a lot of fire warnings. So you'll see that in the local news, the hazard warnings for potential fire. So don't go doing any burns. Don't go doing any fires at night because it might cool off one time. It's going to be super dry. All right, so there's a few unique challenges that you're going to run into if you're coming to Florida and looking to make a move here. If you want to know more about what it's like to move to Florida or Cape Coral or Fort Myers, check out one of these other videos. And if you've got a question, you've got to call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.